The decision not to extend the observer mission was almost inevitable after the envoy for the UN and the Arab League, Kofi Annan, announced his resignation. The job of the UN observers was to monitor all sides' compliance with his peace plan. But a short ceasefire never held. And the daily violence just got worse. France's ambassador to the UN is the current president of the Security Council. He says the fighting on the ground, compounded by disunity in New York, made it near impossible for the observer mission to achieve two specific goals.
One was to contribute to a decrease of violence by intermediation with the fighters, and the other one was to contribute to the implementation of a political process in Syria. The problem was that the two conditions were not there.
The result? The mission was forced to suspend most of its operations. While the number of observers has steadily reduced, some UN officials remained hopeful those left behind could encourage political dialogue. But the opportunity never came. Divisions on the UN Security Council simply deepened. The Russians and Chinese dug in, continuing to oppose sanctions against Assad and calling for similar pressure on the opposition. Paralysis at the UN. 3 vetoes shooting down 3 Security Council resolutions, giving the impression that the UN can't do anything to curb the fighting in Syria. Some commenting here that this is the worst crisis for the Security Council since the end of the Cold War. Many agree the UN may have a significant role after the conflict, to ease a political transition or to keep the peace, but not during it.
It became a civil war. There's no place for the UN there. The implication that the UN can have an important role in such a situation is simply false.
UN officials will continue to track the deteriorating humanitarian situation. Lakhdar Brahimi has accepted the job as the UN and Arab League's joint representative for Syria. And in Syria, a small UN liaison office will remain on standby for the right moment.
The UN mission that we are going to keep in Syria, in a sense, is a bit a sideshow, frankly. We are going to keep 30, 40 people in Damascus, so we are able, if necessary, if there is a political transition, that the UN could support it, really. But it's not the main show.
At admission in New York, then, that in the case of Syria right now, the UN cannot be much more than a spectator. Scott Heidler, Al Jazeera, at the United Nations.